Unlike most people, Jane Fonda has spent her whole life in the limelight. An icon in the fitness industry and an Oscar-winning actress whose legacy will last for generations in Hollywood. However, her private life has consistently aroused interest apart from the paparazzi and the large displays. She has maintained an intriguing love life alongside her fascinating job. She has been married 3 times and dated some of the world's most influential men. But now that she's 87 years old, Jane has spoken out about the one man she'll never forget, the one who haunted her heart. Come with us as we explore their stories. Family and early years. Jane Seymour Fonda came into this world in the Big Apple on December 21, 1937. A cesarean section was performed at Manhattan's Doctors Hospital to bring her into our world. Her folks came from all walks of life. Henry Fonda, her father, was an accomplished American actor in his own right. A socialite of Canadian-British descent, Frances Ford Seymour was her mother. There was history in the Fonda surname. Henry once said that it was passed down via generations of Italians who settled in the Netherlands during the 16th century. The family eventually relocated in New York around 1650 after assimilating into Dutch culture. There was more to Jane's family tree than that. Scottish, English, and French ancestry was included in her. Jane Seymour was called after the third wife of Henry VIII by her parents. She was distantly related to the English Queen through her mother's line. Until she was in 4th grade. This was the reason she was called Lady Jane. She also had siblings when she was a kid. She has a half-sister from her mother's side and a younger brother named Peter Fonda, who also became an actor. One Francis Deal Brokaw was known as Pan. After her father Pan passed away, his daughter Paras established a gallery in London. However, there were times of sadness during Jane's youth. At the age of 12, her mother committed suicide while receiving treatment at Beacon, New York's Craig House Psychiatric Hospital. Her father remarried in the same year. Socialite Susan Blanchard, who was 23 years his junior, became his new wife. More upheaval in Jane's young life came with the marriage's dissolution. She began demonstrating her independence at the tender age of 15 when she took a job teaching dance at Fire Island Pines. Before attending Vassar College, she attended Greenwich Academy in Connecticut and the Emma Willard School in New York. The public took notice of Jane long before she started performing professionally. She was a model who made 2 covers for Vogue. Still, she hadn't found the way that would define her. That finding came as a complete surprise. In 1954, Jane's interest in the arts was sparked when she co-starred with her father in a benefit production of The Country Girl at the Omaha Community Playhouse. This experience helped her discover her vocation. That modest performance was the first of many, although acting wasn't her initial focus. She dropped out of Vassar College and lived in Paris for 6 months to pursue painting. There was a brief time when she seemed to have no future in Hollywood. The year 1958 was a watershed moment. Among the world's most renowned acting instructors, Lee Strasberg was someone Jane met. Her life was completely upended by that encounter. Outside of her family, Strasberg was the only one who had ever told her something. "She have talent," he said. "Genuine ability." Recalling the experience, Jane said, "I went to the actor's studio and Lee Strasberg told me I had talent. Real talent." This was the first time anyone had ever told her she was brilliant at anything, save for her father. For me, it marked a watershed moment. Acting was on my mind before I went to sleep. Acting was on my mind when I woke up. My life felt as if it had been completely collapsed. Something about these words set her on fire. She had faith in her abilities for the very first time. Acting evolved into something more substantial. It grew to be her life's work. Her whole existence revolved around performing after that. However, enthusiasm isn't sufficient on its own. She was still in need of the proper opportunities, and they materialized rapidly. Beginnings in the film industry. Plays began piling up for Jane in the late 1950s. She was well prepared for her 1960s cinema career thanks to these experiences. In her 1960 debut, Tall Story, she portrayed a college cheerleader who pursued Anthony Perkins's character, a basketball player. Her schedule was filled up rapidly after that. Walk on the Wild Side and Period of Adjustment were both released in 1962, starring her. She won the Golden Globe for Best Newcomer for her performance as in Wild Side. Sunday in New York was her 1963 film debut. An honest response would be greatly appreciated. "I have a question. You don't consider it to be beyond your jurisdiction." The reviewers were blown away. Among our fresh crop of young actresses, Newsday deemed her the most charming and talented. However, not every review was positive. Her performance in the Chapman Report earned her the title of Worst Actress that year from the Harvard Lampoon. Jane continued on. Joy House and Circle of Love, both made in France in 1964, featured her acting. The second of these feats made her history as one of the pioneering American actors to grace a foreign film. She was also approached about playing Lara in Dr. Zhivago around the same period. She was not interested in spending 9 months on site, therefore she declined. Her breakout role was in the 1965 Western comedy Cat Bellaloo. Jane showed her versatility in the role of a former school teacher turned outlaw. With 5 nominations, the film quickly rose to the status of one of the most successful of the year. As a result, Jane became a household name and a rising star in Hollywood. After that, in 1966, she co-starred with Marlon Brando and Robert Redford in The Chase. She brought nuance and strength to her part, critics said, praising her performance. The Game is Over, widely regarded as her most audacious picture, was shot in France that very year. Paparazzi images of her on site made it into Playboy without her knowledge or agreement, though, and controversy ensued. The publication was swiftly sued by Jane. Barefoot in the Park, in which she co-starred with Redford once again, and Any Wednesday were 2 of her comedic films that kept audiences in stitches. Jane was getting closer and closer to becoming a real celebrity in Hollywood, one step at a time. With Barbarella, Jane became a household name in 1968. She became an international icon because to the science fiction parody. While her daring display surprised some, it delighted many. Her fame spread all around the globe as a result. However, Jane aspired to be recognized for more than just her glitz. For her, being a serious actress meant wanting respect. Their Shoot Horses, Don't They was released in 1969, which was her chance. She portrayed a jaded woman who became entangled in the brutality of dance marathons during the Great Depression in this film. It completely floored critics. She gave the story an emotional punch, which earned her accolades from Variety. The film's dramatic performance by Fonda as the unremittingly cynical loser, the tough and bruised babe of the Dust Bowl, lends it a personal focus and an emotionally gripping power, Pauline Kael wrote in The New Yorker. Kael went even farther, stating, Jane could dominate movies in the 1970s the way B. Davis had in the 1930s. Jane's performance earned her the New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Actress and her first Academy Award nomination. By the end of the decade, she had built a reputation not only as a talented actress, but also as someone who chose her roles carefully. She even turned down leading parts in Rosemary's Baby and Bonnie and Clyde. These decisions showed that Jane was determined to control her path, even if it meant saying no to big opportunities. The 70s and widespread success. The 1970s were Jane Fonda's most powerful years as an actress. After They Shoot Horse, Don't They? Critics said her acting had changed. She no longer tried to please everyone. She was willing to take risks, even if it meant losing part of her audience. This fearless style set her apart from many of her peers. In 1971, she reached new heights with Clute. She played Bree Daniels, a high-price call girl in Alan J. Pakula's thriller. To prepare, she spoke with prostitutes and madams, wanting to understand their lives. What surprised her most was how close she felt to the character. Years later, she admitted there was like a marriage, a melding of souls between this character and me. This woman that I didn't think I could play because I didn't think I was call girl material. It didn't matter. Her performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress. Her first Oscar. Her work extended beyond film. She had already made her Broadway debut in There Was a Little Girl Back in 1960, which gave her a Tony nomination. Decades later, she returned with 33 Variations in 2009 and earned another nomination. On television, she won an Emmy in 1984 for The Doll Maker and later received nominations for The Newsroom and Grace and Frankie. But her activism brought challenges. During the Vietnam War, she visited Hanoi and was photographed sitting on a North Vietnamese anti-aircraft gun. The picture gave her the lasting nickname Hanoi Jane. Though she intended to speak against war, the moment hurt her reputation deeply. Still, she remained outspoken. She protested the Iraq War, supported feminism, and became an environmental activist. She also co-founded the Hollywood Women's Political Committee in 1984 and the Women's Media Center in 2005. In the 1980s, Jane began a second career with exercise. After injuring her foot and giving up ballet, she turned to aerobics. This led to Jane Fonda's workout in 1982, based on her best-selling book. The video became the highest-selling home tape of its time. Millions bought it, and many even purchased VCRs just to play her workouts. Over the years, she released 23 videos, 5 books, and 13 audio programs, selling more than 17 million copies. In 2010, she returned with new fitness DVDs for older audiences. What started as personal exercise became a worldwide fitness craze, a career that never stopped evolving. The early 1980s also showed her strength in film. In 1980, she starred in 9 to 5 with Lily Tomlin and Dolly Parton. The movie was a huge hit. Soon after, she fulfilled a personal dream by acting alongside her father Henry Fonda in On Golden Pond. The father-daughter tension on screen reflected their real relationship. The film became a classic, giving both of them Oscar nominations. Henry won his first Academy Award, which Jane accepted on his behalf because he was too ill. He died only 5 months later, making the moment bittersweet. Jane kept delivering strong performances. She won an Emmy for The Doll Maker in 1984 and earned another Oscar nomination for The Morning After in 1986. Critics like Pauline Kael praised her, saying she gave a raucous voice down in the dirty performance that has some of the charge of her Brie and Clute. By the end of the decade, she had starred in Old Gringo and proved she was still in demand. Her influence grew behind the camera too. She founded her own production companies, first Jane Development Corporation, later Fonda Films. These gave her more control over projects. But in 1990, Stanley and Iris co-starring Robert De Niro failed at the box office. Critics praised her acting, but the film struggled. In 1991, Jane decided to retire from movies after 30 years in the spotlight. After more than a decade away, she returned in 2005 with Monster-in-Law alongside Jennifer Lopez. The film was a box office success. She followed with Georgia Rule in 2007 and earned another Tony nomination in 2009 for 33 Variations. In the following years, she acted in both American and French films, showing her wide range. From 2012, she played media boss Leona Lansing in HBO's The Newsroom, a role that brought her Emmy nominations. In 2013, she surprised audiences as Nancy Reagan in The Butler. Jane explained, "I am an actor, and I have no intention of allowing the political differences between us to color my portrayal of her. I will not be disrespectful." Critics praised her performance. She stayed active well into the 2000s. In 2015, she began her most recent long-term project, Grace and Frankie, with Lily Tomlin. The Netflix comedy ran for 7 seasons until 2022. Along the way, she appeared in films like Youth, Our Souls at Night with Robert Redford, and the comedy hit Book Club. In 2023, she starred in 80 for Brady, Moving On, and Book Club, The Next Chapter. Even after decades of change, Jane proved that age was never a limit. From award-winning roles to fitness tapes, from activism to late career comedies, she kept reinventing herself and showing her unstoppable spirit. Her career showed the world her strength. But behind the spotlight, her personal life was just as full of twists and turns. Early romances and first loves. Jane Fonda's personal life began making headlines long before she became a household name. In her autobiography, she revealed that she lost her virginity at 18 to actor James Franciscus. It was a moment of honesty that showed how early she stepped into adult relationships. Through the late 1950s and early 1960s, she dated many men who came from different worlds. There was automobile racing manager Giovanni Volpe, film producers Jose Antonio Science de Vicuna and Sandy Whitelaw, as well as actors Warren Beatty, Peter Mann, Christian Marquand, and William Wellman Jr. At the same time, Jane often acted as a beard for closeted homosexuals. These were men in the entertainment world, including dancer Timmy Everett, theater director Andreas Vaninas, and actor Earl Hallerman. This role she played in their lives revealed how complex Hollywood relationships could be, even in an age when many personal truths had to stay hidden. Jane's early years were filled with adventure, love, and companionship. But they were only the start of her long journey, because soon her personal and professional lives would intertwine with someone who remained close to her heart for decades. Robert Redford, a lifelong connection. One of the most important men in Jane Fonda's life was not technically a lover, but someone she openly admitted to loving. That man was Robert Redford. The two first appeared together on screen in the 1966 thriller The Chase. Soon after, they reunited in the romantic comedy Barefoot in the Park in 1967 and again in the western The Electric Horseman in 1979. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable, and it followed them for decades. Yet, despite the spark, they were never romantically involved off-screen. Jane herself confessed that she was deeply in love with him during those early years. In 2017, before the release of their final collaboration, Our Souls at Night, she opened up about her feelings. Speaking to Ellen DeGeneres, she admitted, "I realized that I've grown up because in the 3 previous movies, I was always in love with him. As soon as she showed her admiration for him, I was smitten." In the same year, she shared with reporters, "I live for sex scenes with him. He's a great kisser, so it was fun to kiss him in my 20s and to kiss him again in my almost 80s. Redford symbolized an unfulfilled love that endured in her heart, even though it was never acted upon. Their bond proved that love can be unforgettable even when it's not formal. Although Jane harbored same sentiments, her first marriage marked a change in her public romantic life. Roger Vadim went through his first marriage. Roger Vadim, a French director, was Jane's first spouse. Upon Vadim's approach to her in 1963 regarding the remake of the film Lauren, the two crossed paths. Initially, she declined his advances, but destiny had other ideas. At her 26th birthday celebration later that year, they ran into each other again. They were married in August 1965 after a brief courtship. Vadim was 38 years old and Jane was 28. As a couple, they were able to work together on both a personal and professional level. Jane became an international superstar after working with him on the 1968 cult hit Barbarella. Their daughter, Vanessa Vadim, was born that year. Her name was taken after the campaigner and actress Vanessa Redgrave. After some time had passed, Jane considered her attraction to Vadim. In her autobiography, she explained, "There's no doubt that part of my attraction to him and his life was because it was so different from the repressed style in which I had been raised. But what a reputation he had. In the first years of our relationship, walking down the Shah, people would react to him as to a major movie star." Their marriage lasted until 1973, but cracks began to appear earlier. By 1970, rumors of separation surfaced, though Jane's team denied them. By 1972, she admitted they were separated, though still friends. During this period, she also had short affairs with political organizer Fred Gardner and her Clute co-star Donald Sutherland. By the time her marriage to Vadim officially ended, Jane was ready for a new chapter. And this time, her partner would be someone whose passion for activism matched her own. Tom Hayden, Love and Activism. Just 3 days after her divorce from Vadim was finalized in 1973, Jane married activist Tom Hayden. Their ceremony was held at her Laurel Canyon home. Jane had already become involved with Hayden the previous summer, and by the time they married, she was 3 months pregnant. Their son Troy Jarity was born that same year, carrying a name full of meaning. He was named after Vietnamese revolutionary Nguyen Van Troy, while his middle name O'Donovan honored Irish revolutionary Jeremiah O'Donovan Rosa. Jane explained that using the Fonda or Hayden surname carried too much weight, so they chose Garrity, the maiden name of Hayden's mother. Their bond was more than romance. It was also about a shared mission. Hayden later wrote in his memoir, "The passion of our common involvement no doubt caused our involvement in passion for each other. A strong foundation for this love was the ability to face the same dangerous battles every day as a team instead of alone." At that very second, Jane knew he was the one. She went on to describe it. His touch on her knee brought up a memory of being at a theater. What she described as an electric shock ran through her bodily systems. Then she returned home and confided in her roommate, "I think that I've met the man that I'm going to marry next." Their marriage, which lasted 17 years, was Jane's longest partnership. Mary Williams, the daughter of Black Panthers, was adopted during this time, and Troy was nurtured alongside her. Jane felt whole after this adoption. But as time went on, their disagreements widened the gap between them. Both Hayden and Jane had trouble communicating, and Hayden despised the empire that Jane had created with her exercise cassettes. They divorced in 1990 after separating before Christmas of 1988. Jane was briefly associated with soccer star Lorenzo Cataculanza and actor Rob Lowe during their separation. Hayden remained an important person in her life, ending or no ending. Love, children, and a commitment to social justice were the fruits of their union. The years they spent together revealed a different side to Jane Fonda, even after their relationship ended. The lady who was also an activist and a partner was hell-bent on striking a balance between her private and public lives. The union with Ted Turner is powerful. Following the dissolution of her lengthy marriage to Tom Hayden, Jane Fonda embarked on a drastically new phase of her life. She wed Ted Turner, founder of CNN and a cable television magnate, in 1991. Although they had met at a charity event in 1990, it wasn't until former President Jimmy Carter, a friend of Fonda's, reintroduced them later that their affair began. They tied the knot at Florida's Turner's Ranch on December 21, 1991. It seemed like this new romance would continue on indefinitely for Jane. She told People magazine in 2023, "When I married him, I thought it would be forever. For a while, it seemed like a dream. Turner was wealthy, powerful, and larger than life." Jane admitted years later, "He was sexy. He was brilliant. He had 2 million acres by the time I left. It would have been easy to stay, but behind the glamour, there were problems." Jane revealed that Turner needed someone who could be by his side all the time. She explained he needs someone to be there 100% of the time. It is not love, it's babysitting. Over the years, she realized that she needed something different. She wanted to grow, to discover herself, and to put her needs first. By 2000, they had separated, and the divorce was finalized in 2001. Looking back, Jane described hearing an angel on her shoulder, telling her that if she stayed, she would never become who she was meant to be. Despite the end of their marriage, she has often spoken warmly about Turner. Even in 2023, she referred to him as her favorite ex-husband. Their decade together was full of adventure, laughter, and challenges. But in the end, Jane chose authenticity over comfort. Richard Perry, a late-life discovery. After her divorce from Turner, Jane spent several years single. Then in 2009, she met record producer Richard Perry, and their relationship lasted until 2017. The timing was unusual. Jane had just undergone knee replacement surgery when she moved in with Perry, still using crutches. Yet, that was the beginning of something new. In a 2012 interview, she laughed as she recalled, "When I had my knee replaced, I found a lover. I was still wearing crutches when I moved in with him." At 74, "I've never had such a fulfilling sex life," Jane acknowledged in a 2012 interview with The Sun, adding, "What made this relationship special was how open Jane was about it." This allowed Jane, who was in her 70s, to finally experience something she had missed. Since then, they haven't been apart. "I have never experienced genuine intimacy with a man. That is the only thing. It is my utmost desire to learn that before to my passing." The same thing occurred with Richard. "With him, I feel completely safe." Their romance ended in January 2017, but there was no bitterness. Perry told US Weekly at the time, "We communicate all the time." Jane's words revealed that this wasn't just about companionship. Richard Perry gave her a sense of security, intimacy, and discovery that she had missed in previous relationships. It couldn't be more amicable. Jane herself echoed the same feeling, saying they stayed close friends even after the split. It may not have lasted forever, but for Jane, the years with Perry gave her new insight into what love could mean, even late in life. Missed chances and regrets. You see, not every man in Jane Fonda's life became a partner, but some still left an impression. One of the most surprising stories she revealed came in 2020. She admitted that soul legend Marvin Gaye had once made advances toward her. At the time she was married, so she turned him down. Looking back, she confessed it was one of her greatest regrets. She told the New York Times that she later discovered Marvin had even kept a picture of her on his refrigerator. For Jane, it was a what-if moment, the kind of missed chance that makes people wonder how different life might have been. But she also spoke openly about how her attitude toward relationships was shaped by her past. In a 2018 interview, Jane said that until the age of 62, she always felt she needed men to give her value. She linked this to her mother's early death, which left her without a female role model. Because of that, she admitted she often attached herself to alpha males. Many of them made her feel inadequate even as her professional success grew. Reflecting on those years, she explained, "Some men have a hard time realizing that the woman they're married to is strong and smart, and they have to diminish that because it makes them feel diminished. It's a shame that masculinity has been defined in a manner that it's so easily shamed." Her words showed a deep understanding of how personal history and social expectations can shape relationships. They also revealed how much Jane had grown in self-awareness over the decades. But even as she looked back on regrets and lessons, she didn't stop reflecting on what love really meant. Lessons learned from love. By her 80s, Jane Fonda was looking at love and relationships with new clarity. In 2018, she declared that she had stopped dating altogether, saying, "I'm 80. I've closed up shop down there." It was a candid, humorous way of showing acceptance of her choices. But in later interviews, she shared serious lessons she had gathered from a lifetime of marriages and romances. Speaking to People magazine in 2023, she didn't hold back. Marriage is FO. She reflected on each of her 3 marriages with honesty. About her first husband, Roger Vadim, she said, "He had tremendous charm, but we were very different." About Tom Hayden, she admitted, "I learned all the things that I consider the most valuable from Tom." And about Ted Turner, she smiled and said, "He's outrageous and hysterically funny." Despite their endings, she expressed gratitude for what each relationship had given her. Jane also spoke about the importance of paying attention early on. She explained, "My life would be very different if I'd noticed red flags." To her, the lesson was about awareness. She said, "You have to understand nobody is perfect, and you have to decide, can I live with this? Is this going to kill the agreement, or can we find a way to work together?" make an effort to recognize whether there are any warning signs. How does their relationship with their mother stand? Does drinking cause problems? Is it an issue to gamble? Her advice showed the wisdom of someone who had lived through decades of love, mistakes, and lessons. Even her view of falling in love had changed. She challenged the common phrase, saying the expression, "I fell in love." What's wrong with that sentence? Fell? You don't want to fall. You wish to approach him or her on 2 feet as an entire person and be cognizant of what you're getting into. It was a clear reminder that for Jane, love was no longer about losing herself, but about walking forward with confidence. Today, she often says she is the happiest she has ever been. Working with friends on projects like Book Club, the next chapter brought her joy, proving that even without a partner, her life remained full. The lessons from her past didn't break her. They built her into the woman she had become. Jane Fonda's final wishes. At 87, Jane Fonda has spoken openly about how she wants to spend her last years. The Hollywood legend said her focus now is to be at peace with her family and especially her children. She has turned to therapy to help her strengthen those bonds. Fonda has also carefully planned her burial. She revealed, "I know where I'm going to be buried. I've worked it all out." She ruled out cremation, saying it damages the environment, and explained that the idea of being buried in a wooden box feels wrong to her. Instead, she wants to be wrapped in a simple sheet and placed in the ground next to her second husband, Tom Hayden, in a cemetery in Santa Monica. She described the place as natural with native grasses, no headstones, and drought resistance. Jane admitted she thinks about death often, but sees it as healthy. "Thinking about death gives meaning to life," she said. She explained that she wants to die at home in her bed surrounded by people she loves and still able to speak and share wisdom. As she put it, "How I live in these last years guides how I am going to pass." Who do you think Jane Fonda loved the most out of all the men in her life? Was it the man she married or someone she was never able to fully commit to? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and stay tuned for more amazing stories from the history of Hollywood.